En Camino with Kit Hogg.
People have been singing since they discovered they have voices. But singing together? Well, someplace in the mists of ages past, the first choir was born. I mean, people have been singing together in choir since the earliest days of the church, for sure, and probably earlier. Possibly the oldest choir in the world is La Cappella Musicale Pontificia de Sistina, sometimes known as the Pope's personal choir. Of course, choirs exist outside of worship, particularly these days. From residential homes to workplaces to Welsh rugby crowds to Gareth Malone TV series, choirs pop up like mushrooms. Why, we even had one in our pueblo until recently. That was a curious affair. But the choir I want to focus on today is rather special. A lot more than the songs they sing and the music they make. It's special in that it nurtures and offers new beginnings, new hope to its participants. It's called the Liberty Choir, and here to talk to us is one of its leading lights, Ginny Dougary. Ginny, hello and welcome.
Hello, Kit. Thank you. I'm delighted to be on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. Can you start by telling us exactly what is the Liberty Choir?
Indeed. It's Liberty Choir Unlocking Hearts Through Song, and it started 10 years ago, and it's a charity that my wife and I founded. And it is a full circle charity where volunteers from the community, usually community choir singers and initially MJ's own community choir singers, but it's expanded way beyond that, go in every week for a 2-hour session of an integrated choir with prisoners and volunteers, where they learn a lot more than singing and where it can actually be, as I will explain later, a matter of life and death that you're confronting there in these despairing places. And when the men and women leave prison, the other half of the circle is that we support them towards their reintegration into society, which is often, as we're particularly exploring now and discovering even more, a very challenging setup whereby they're almost doomed to fail because of the system's malfunctioning. But that is really what Liberty Choir is. It's a full circle charity where the seeds of hope are sown within the prisons and which flourish and blossom when the men and women come out and see the same faces and the same team who they saw every week when they were in prison.
Mm. Were you already a singer?
Well, I've always sung, Kit. I suppose, are we allowed to share that we've known each other for a long time?
I don't. We do, yeah. I mean, well, let's spill the beans. We were together at Bristol University in the 1970s, but I never remember.
Well, you may have heard my warbling.
No, no.
My kind of, kind of quavering Joni Mitchell would be.
Oh, it was Joni Mitchell. Right, okay.
Always start with a challenge, one of the best singers ever. But I've always sung with great enthusiasm, and quite a lot of our old gang of friends, Janie Howard and so on, we would be stomping through various country walks, singing the whole kind of Carole King, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell repertoire.
A very 70s.
With abandon.
yeah. But I mean, I imagine also you're not that there was a lot of room for improvement, but I imagine that your technique has developed somewhat since being in a choir.
Oh, I'm a much better singer than I was, and I'm not tone deaf or anything like that, but I've learnt breathing, of course, all of those, in each session in both MJ's community choirs. That's my other half, who is a brilliant singer, a sort of knock. She's one of our kind of weapons, if you like, in kind of conquering resistance from the men and women in prison, is that when she sings, just everybody melts and tears flow, and she's one of those singers. And but we do the vocal exercise exercises, the breathing, and we do that exactly the same technique in prison and in her community choirs, which the men and women join.
Okay, yeah, I want to talk to you about warm-up exercises, but tell us about MJ, who is your wife, and you met in New York on a vocal workshop. Am I right?
It's something quite similar to that. Certainly on the east coast of America, we met, and she was in fact my singing teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, what's going on here? But so sort of feelings began to develop there. But she's a very accomplished professional singer. But now in England runs 4 community choirs. And we've had various periods. Really, the charities have taken over our lives. But before that, we would write songs together and perform them, and we put on a showcase for a musical. And I'm hoping in the fullness of time we can return to some of that creativity, because it's a very joyous thing to do. And I write the lyrics and she writes the music, and it's really fun.
Oh, lovely! As a partner, as a partner, that must be really nice. I think the role of the choir, she I'm taking it is the choir leader, so to speak.
Well, yes. I mean, she's the sort of I'm trying to think what her title is with the charity. She's called, I think, music program director. But of course, we started the charity in being in one prison. Again, ever ambitious. We started in the most challenging prison in Europe, in the largest prison and most notorious, really, HMP Wandsworth, which has had many stories of sort of challenging escapees and, God knows what. And we started really as an experiment, and we were very lucky to have some fantastic people believe in us and give us some start-up money, such as Ian Hislop, who's you may know, of course, from being editor of Private Eye and Have I Got News for You and all of that kind of thing. Sort of various people, I suppose, who'd known me through my work at the Times, where I worked for 20 years, interviewing people. But that worked. But then the next step was, okay, let's see what happens if we go into 2 or 3 prisons. Then we know that the model works. Okay, well, she can't be everywhere, obviously. So we have a fantastic team of music directors and accompanist now.
Sure. Now, what interests me is that, having made a success of Wandsworth, presumably you then had an in with other jails. But that first step, how receptive were the prison authorities to the idea of you guys starting a choir?
Well, that's a very good question, Kit, because we've always joked that it's hard to get into a prison unless you've committed a crime as it is to get out. The bureaucracy, the admin, the attitudes of sort of rather patronising, because we're mainly women of a certain age, sort of, well-meaning do-gooder sort of, we have had to deal with that. We're now, because we've standed the test of time, and we have been on, you mentioned Gareth Malone, we were on, he featured us on one of his, trying to set up himself a choir in a prison, a young offenders prison. He came to MJ as the sort of guru of things and gave us a fantastic slot, whereupon suddenly all these prison officers said, we've been going in for years at this point, oh, you're Liberty Choir. And I said, oh, yes, okay. We've been here for 4 years.
Suddenly you had credibility, yeah.
So, well, the power of television, right?
Yes.
But I think we were really exceptionally lucky that we had people at Wandsworth Prison who really got what we were doing. And one was we're not a religious organisation, I should say, but we often come in through the chaplaincy. And that was, in fact, a very early piece of advice given by a very successful prisons charity, which is the Prisoners' Advice charity, which is in every prison. Andy Keane Downs, the CEO, said, first of all, attach some gold dust to your charity, i.e. stars. That always works. So, that was my job, really. And secondly, come in under the chaplaincy because they don't do cutbacks on God.
Okay. All right.
And that head chaplain was the person who really got it. Tim Bryant, he's one of our ambassadors, and he was fantastic. He would cross this huge prison and get people who he felt really needed this work, who were very depressed or at risk and so on. And one of those people that he bothered to do this, nobody does this now, it's called Ross Bell, and he is also an ambassador with his wife Vicky, and he had been a serving officer, Sandhurst trained in the Iraq War. He doesn't really talk about it, but it was clearly very traumatic. He had a very bad case of post-traumatic stress, and made some foolish decisions, fraud decisions, tax fraud, and he was in a really bad way. And Tim went over and got him, and Ross discovered that he had a voice. I mean, we just went, wow, when he started singing with us, a beautiful, beautiful tenor voice.
Mm-hmm.
And he has now released his first album. He joined a choir in his where he lives in Ramsgate. He started up the Ramsgate Liberty Choir fundraising committee. Every year he does something for us. And this past year, they raised £5,000 putting on an incredible concert with his band, an Americana band, Roscoe Pico. And fantastic. He's writing songs, he's singing them, he's in a band. And all of that from his first session with us on the 1st of April 2014.
2014, oh right. Okay, so you have been going quite a long time. I mean,
10 years, yeah.
I wonder if you can take us back to the first time you went into a prison to actually do this, the Liberty Choir went to Wandsworth. Can you paint that scenario?
Yes, I can actually, because Ross rather brilliantly describes it as the Women's Institute Commando team. But we all gathered around where they were picking up their miserable evening meal at 4:00 or something, non-nutritious prison meal.
So this is in the dining room, so to speak. The refectory.
No, you see, I bet you're thinking, have you been in a prison, Kit?
I've been held in a jail in Australia, but that was only for about 6 hours, and then I was let out on bail. So I've never done birds, no.
Yeah, but so you've of course seen many films, which is where your question's coming from, I think.
Yeah,
where
for sure.
Prisoners are all in a huge dining room,
that's it.
And all hell breaks loose. Well, of course, that's not actually what happens. The prisoner is in a cell the size of a skip, tiny space, with a loo in that space where they're having to. I don't think we do that with our animals, do we? Where you eat and shit in the same place, but we do it to human beings. And these were small, cramped cells that were, Queen Victoria's. Go back to Queen Victoria's era, and they're sharing. They're very meant to be for one person, but they're all being shared by two people. And what they do is they pick up their food and take their food back into their cell, where we're talking about lack of human dignity here, where their cell might need to have a crap while they're eating, and there's no screen around the loo. I mean, it's unbelievably degrading. And then you add the rats, and you add the fact that the windows are broken, and go on and on. But at any rate, enough with that bleak side, back to the dark humour. So there they are queuing up for their food. We are all arriving, yakking away, saying, come and join Liberty Choir. And when we decided really to use MJ because of her amazing voice, and say, come and have a little free gig. So that's what we did, and we got the permission from that prison governor, Kenny Brown, who was an amazing guy. And people came along to this little chapel, and MJ sang 3 or 4 or 5 songs, and they all went sweet, and all those sort of words. I loved it, and that really started Liberty Choir.
Wait a minute. That's not a choir, is it? That's a concert. That's one person singing to other people. So how did you get them? My question is, how did you get them to join in? Participate?
We got them to join in because they saw the calibre of the people who'd be teaching them through MJ doing her performance. And then they came the next week. And, initially, because it's a way to get out of yourself, whatever kind of thing. But then they got hooked because singing, and you've been in a choir yourself, singing makes you feel good. And actually, as I say, probably terribly inappropriately, because a lot, if you took away people who are in prison for drug and alcohol issues and mental health issues, they would be empty. Do you know what I mean? But I say, well, if you like cocaine, you're going to like singing in a choir because it gives you the same thing. It's the serotonin and, the endorphins all rushing through you. And it really is. I mean, you do get a musical high.
Oh, absolutely you do. Yeah, but what songs are you singing?
We're singing an absolute range. And I have to say the word choir can be off-putting. My friend Vasu I've just spoken to, who's in one of our prisons where he can make phone calls, because sometimes they pick up, even when they've been out, as he has for 7 years. But he basically, the first time he heard his pad mate, as they say, came in and said, I'm being a Liberty Choir. And he says, choir? Well, you've got to be kidding, mate. Because they're not natural choir boys. But the thing is, it's community, it's camaraderie.
Darling, I want to know songs, Ginny. What songs are you singing?
Oh, songs. So sorry. God. You definitely need to keep me on track.
I am trying.
So we do a huge variety. Again, the same sort of variety the community choirs do. So we do a classical piece, and that is often their favourite piece, I have to say, like Vivaldi's Gloria. You can sing it, almost can sound a bit like a football chant. Gloria, Gloria.
Right.
You can imagine.
Right. Do you do California Dreaming, for example?
Say that again, Kit.
California Dreaming. Do you do that?
No, we don't yet. But we do. Let's say ABBA, Jessie J's Price Tag, Bob Marley.
Lovely.
Jazz, swing, dance. That's the whole bit.
Right.
And we perform. We do concerts in prisons for the friends and family, which is a highlight of the year.
Okay, yeah, I want to know about the concerts. Yeah, are they're hugely anticipated? I imagine, publicised but invitation only, presumably. The doors aren't. Are the doors open to the public?
We invite. So we usually have about 100 to 150 people. The key thing is they're allowed to invite maybe four guests, the prisoners themselves, who are often gobsmacked when they see them doing this completely different thing. It's a tremendous sort of matter of pride, and the prison officers themselves completely take their hats off to them because it takes a lot of balls to get up and perform in front of strangers.
Are prison officers involved? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you get other staff involved as well?
In some prisons, but that's not really the model. We have done that in psychiatric units where we actually started Liberty Choir, in fact, in a forensic psychiatric unit where people have been incarcerated for the safety to themselves and to the public. So people suffering from psychosis, schizophrenia, very extreme mental health problems. That is a model where you have a patient in a forensic psychiatric unit and their carer or member of staff responsible for them, and then a volunteer. So that's the sort of third strand, if you like. But no, the answer is, on the whole, we're left to our own devices. So that we're quite attractive to the prison system because we've got over 100 security-trained volunteers. We also have key holders. So we're trying in a very cut-back system. And with the Labour government, the cuts have been even more extreme, where we are as self-sufficient as possible. The demands on a stretch system are kept to a minimum.
Yeah, you talked about. I just talk about the charity for a moment, and we've talked about Full Circle. So I'm understanding by this that there's an element of you're helping in rehabilitating people when they step outside. Can you speak to us about that?
Crucially, yes, absolutely. So I think, as I said, the seeds of hope are sown within the prison. The bonds are forged, and when the
bonds with you. So they know that you're still there for them when they come out. Absolutely. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly that. And Kit, the point is, when I say over 110, 120 Liberty Choir graduates, that's ex-prisoners, are in touch with us, many dating back to that first session 10 years ago. They have to get in touch with us. There's no sort of formal route to do it because of confidentiality. So these people often, who have led very chaotic lives through no fault of their own, when you hear about how their childhoods and so on and so forth, have to hang on to that card that we give them, and through God knows what circumstances, the chaotic life continues on the outside. But they hang on to that little card for dear life and phone MJ and me. So we are, in terms of how the process works, we are the first port of call. Only when we've talked to them and had that friendship extending, sometimes meeting them, then the volunteers, always in public places and with at least two people there, will then meet them for coffee and support them. So do you see what I mean? The security of the volunteers is highly important. And yes, so they get in touch. And, I wonder if I could give you some examples of things that are going on right now might be of interest of a couple of the graduates.
Yeah, just briefly, if you may, because we're actually running out of time, Ginny. That time has flown. Let me just ask you, before you give us a story, do people who have come out, do they still sing with you?
Yes, in some cases they do. So we don't feel that that's essential.
No.
I can't say that the singing is unimportant. It is important, but it's the community. It's the belief that they can and will try again and not be a revolving door prisoner. So, we've got a fantastic case of Richie, who literally had never spent 2 Christmases out in his whole adult life. 2 consecutive Christmases out. As soon as he came out, he'd get caught up for one trivial thing or another, and then he was recalled back into prison. And now he's had 10 consecutive Christmases out in the community. He's reconnected with his family, with his son, and he still has challenges. That hasn't stopped, but he's not been back to prison, and that is the most incredible achievement on his part. So we have other stories like that, which you could dismiss a choir as something fluffy and, as I say, do-gooders and, whatever. But it's powerful, powerful stuff, and it works. And,
of course, the Liberty Choir is a challenge. How might one contribute? If there's anybody listening now who's thinking, yes, I would like to help, how would they do that, Ginny?
Well, we need your help, because as we expand, we're now getting 1 or 2 prisoners coming out a week, and it's never a short conversation. Of course, it's 40, 50 minutes time. Then many things that we're trying to do, which I was hoping I had time to say, where we're working with a young man who's desperate to turn his life around. And because of his past with gangs and all sorts of things, they're finding it very difficult to get him an approved premises, an AP. And because of that, he may be recalled back to prison just to give him a bed for the night, which is just ludicrous state to be in. So we're all trying to help him. But we have a website, and it is libertychoir.org, O-R-G, you can read more about our work, our amazing patrons, such as David Gilmour of Pink Floyd fame, and Cherie Blair, and we're supported by, we could have a super group really, Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend of The Who, and all these people, they give us their names, they don't give us a lot of money, alas, sorry to say that. But
they don't do what, sorry?
People can donate to libertychoir.org, has a donate page, and people can read more about our work there.
Okay, that's wonderful, and what a wonderful cast of benefactors. Ginny, I'm terribly sorry. We could go on, and maybe we will another day, but that's all we have time for right now.
Well, Kit, it's been delightful. Maybe next time I can get a graduate on with me, and you can actually talk to somebody who's been through the system.
That would be wicked. Absolutely wicked. Yeah, we'd really like that. Yeah. In the meantime, thank you so much, Ginny Dougary from the Liberty Choir. A huge pleasure.
Thank you, and the pleasure's all mine, Kit.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.